एक मिनट रुक जाओ, रेडी होने दो। चलो ये कर लेते हैं। दिस कुड बी अ ग्रेट इंट्रो।
Hi, I'm Akshay.
Hi, this is Saurabh, and you are listening to the Founder Thesis podcast. We meet some of the most celebrated startup founders in the country.
And we want to learn how to build a unicorn.
My name is Mayank Bidawatka. I'm one of the co-founders of a vernacular startup. We run two products called Vokal and Koo.
I'm sure a lot of us relate to this. Having parents who are first time users of the internet, though their first language is not English. Until now, the only mode of convenient communication for such people was WhatsApp and YouTube videos. But they both have their limits, right? Today, Akshay Dutt is speaking to Mayank Bidawatka, the founder of Koo and Vokal. He is someone who saw this deep problem of the next billion users who come on the internet and are not comfortable with English and created amazing products like Koo and Vokal, which are social media platforms for vernacular communicators. Here's Mayank talking about his journey of joining a tiny online startup after working in an established corporate like ICICI Bank.
Actually, I think the internet always fascinated me right from the time I think in '98 when I saw Yahoo, right, and created an email. I was fascinated when a guy sitting behind me on a desk sent me an email and I got it within a few seconds on my desktop. And I would keep thinking of ideas that you could put out on the internet. How do you create a website and things like that. So I think for quite a while I was always thinking of new things that could be done on the internet because I knew it will be a new channel of distribution. Uh, Even when I was at ICICI, I ran quite a few campaigns that were digital in nature. Post my MBA, I definitely wanted to start something of my own. I think it's genetic. I'm not wired to work at larger companies. I'm wired to build things from scratch and run my own shows. So I think that showed up at some point. So I was thinking of ideas, and my roommate from AIM was Funny Senior. So Funny is one of the founders of redBus. He's Funny Senior from Bits Pilani. And we had discussed redBus even during our EIM days, where my roommate had mentioned that a friend is starting something like this, and we'll be looking at building a team. We've discussed pros and cons of the business, etc. So I always had a feeling that the internet would be a big thing, even back in 2007. And I knew that a lot of transactions were happening on IRCTC. I used to book my train tickets there. So the internet being the future was very clear in my head. I was very keen to start something, and I was thinking of ideas when Niranjan, my roommate, spoke about Funny and redBus and all of that, and then he connected us, and then Funny and I spoke over the phone. We had a great conversation. We were basically completing each other's sentences, and then I thought I'll just meet in person. So Funny said, just fly down to Bangalore. We can meet here. I was working at ICICI at that time. So ICICI is one of those landmark buildings in BKC, right? It's a beautiful office. You have everything at your disposal. There's no resource crunch. So that was my context. And then I met Funny in Bangalore, and it was like this really small villa in Bangalore where there were a few people working out of it. So for me, it was, uh, I can't tell you the shift uh, in context that was. And, it hit me saying this is what startups are all about. You work out of a small space. There's a resource crunch in every form that you can imagine. There's a people resource crunch. There's a funding resource crunch. There's a time resource crunch, and that really excited me. As a personality, I love experimenting with being out of my comfort zone. uh, I'm a very very heavy risk taker in all formats and all dimensions of life. So for me, this was that. And, I got along really well with Funny. I met up with the board, had great conversations. And, I just left Bangalore, taking a flight back to Bombay, saying, let's make this happen. Right. So I was quite committed to the cause. It seemed like a great thing to be doing. And somehow, I don't think of the downside. If it happens, it happens, but, doesn't really matter. So I was basically ready to leave my life as it was for my first 25 years back in Bombay and say, I'm going to move to Bangalore and, work with guys I've never met before and make this happen. So, yeah, it was quite a serendipitous thing.
Okay. So did you have to take a pay cut also, or like were they able to match your salary? I mean, considering startup constraints.
No, that was a massive pay cut, almost 60, 70%.
So you
And
like really believed in Funny or believed in the idea? Like, what caused you to have so much conviction to give up so much and join redBus?
so I really liked Funny. We had a great equation. Uh, I believed in the internet. I believed that a bunch of unknown guys could get together and make things happen. A lot of these things fade out of memory, but at that point of time, I was just thinking, saying, I've got insurance in my MBA, right? I can always go back and do whatever I want. Since since childhood, I don't think I ever cared about money as much as I cared about my freedom to be able to do stuff. So money is as good as the freedom it buys me, and hence I didn't care about the pay cut. I found a house which was a 2 minutes walk from office. Bangalore rentals are nowhere close to Bombay, and hence I could sort of make ends meet with even a 70% pay cut. And Yeah, so I think I believed in Funny. I believed in the internet. I believed that if train tickets can happen online, bus tickets can happen online. I love the challenge. I like the fact that we were all 25 years old, right? All of us doing this, and I wanted to prove to others and to myself that we can make this happen, and if we make it happen, it will be a massive thing.
Hmm. So Funny was like the solo founder, or were there other co-founders with him?
Yeah, there were three of them. There's Funny, Charan, and Sudhakar. So yeah, there was another colleague of mine, AB, who had joined them just 1 month before I did. So we were sort of the foundation team members. Five of us that were basically running that company. Charan and Sudhakar were more on the engineering side of things, and Funny, AB, and me were handling more the business side of things.
Okay. So when you joined, how much had they established themselves at that time? Like, was it like single city bus
Yeah, yeah,
booking or like,
yeah.
okay?
Single
And
city.
had they raised funding also?
Just about, and just a couple of tickets a day. So, the website was sort of under maintenance. Even while I was migrating out of my ICICI and I put my papers, I had started working and contributing and seeing various things through. So yeah, but basically extremely nascent. It was mainly an idea with some very small POC.
Hmm. Okay. And then they raised funding. How soon after you joined, and what was the trajectory that you saw at redBus?
So, if this is back in the day, okay? This is when startups were unknown. This is where families would really dissuade you to do something stupid like that.
This
And
was like pre Flipkart also. Like,
yeah, Flipkart came in 2008, and redBus was more end of 2006 kind of story. So we were pre-Flipkart, and so yeah, these were those times when doing a startup was considered extremely stupid. The funding amounts were very, very small compared to what you see today. Uh, the funding that we had received was also small. Uh, so We went through quite a few interesting things back then. We were also one of the first few startups to have gone through the 2008 recession. And I remember what that did to us. We had just a few more months of runway. We were running bills on our credit cards, all of this on our personal cards. We would rotate money. We did all kinds of things to stay afloat. And it was so tough to raise funds back in 2008, right? So we've really gone through uh, many interesting near-death experiences back then, and it taught us how to be smart about money, how to be frugal, how to be extremely desperate, and stay afloat no matter what, right? So I think it was also quite a great team. A team that never gave up. Right, I've never worked with a team like that in my life. So it was a bunch of really strong believers. So yeah.
And what kind of margin was redbus earning, like on every ticket that got booked? Like how much would you pay to the operator? And what was what was the unit economics like and stuff like that? And
Yeah, so redBus made 10% commission on the ticket amount.
hmm, hmm. Okay. And did you have competitors for redbus?
Yeah, lots of them. So I think there were lots of local guys, there were some national guys. Uh, a lot of them sprouted up at the time when they found out that redBus has raised funding. Everyone was trying to go after the same supply. So a whole bunch of them. If you did a Google search query for bus tickets, you had a lot of people popping up. Bus operators that sort of started, flirting with the idea of going online and having a phone number on their site, and, things like that. So some mix of online and offline booking. So all of that was
Hmm.
happening back then.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What are like the uh, key levers of building a platform? Like redbus is essentially a platform. So like how do you build a platform so that it gets into a dominant position?
Right. I think there's a small difference in being an aggregator and a platform. Redbus was more an aggregator, and so
So
uh,
what's an example of a platform, just so that I understand the difference?
a platform is something like Twitter. A platform is something like LinkedIn, where you provide tools to a user, and then they figure the rest out themselves. So on LinkedIn, I have given you the ability to create your resume and list it, and everyone can use it now. If I've created the road, for example, right now, whether you're a car, you're a truck, or a bike, or whatever it is, you can drive on that road. So it's a platform. I've created it, and you can now use it any way you like. An aggregator is a guy who sort of gets into the middle of the transaction and takes control of it, right? So imagine if LinkedIn had the ability to upload your resume, but there's a guy who's sorting it out, making it better, all of that, and acting as a middleman. Then that sort of changes from being a pure platform, right? So platforms just basically create the stage and give you the tools, and then you figure it out. Redbus was more a managed, yeah, a managed aggregator where we were basically reaching out to supply and trying to digitize their inventory, trying to make it as real time as possible, and then list that on our website, making it easy for the user to book a bus seat online instead of going to 100 different travel agents. So our problem statement was, how do I give the user the ability to see all the buses that are going to ply between a particular route, so that he doesn't have to go to multiple travel agents and figure all this out on his own. So back in the day, the inventory was not digitized. So we would do this in an offline way, where we would reach out to a bus operator and say, give me 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 seats, whatever you can. and I'll put it up online. If I'm unable to sell it till a couple of hours, we'll give it back to you. And so that's how the operation ran. So it was fairly manual in the beginning and very painful now that I look back at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So you had like a big operations team of people who would be always calling up these operators and booking tickets and releasing them and
Yes.
all
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If there's a bus cancellation, you have to call every customer and say, do you want a refund? Should I put you in another bus? These are the options. So, yeah, fairly manual and painful processes.
Hmm. So, and how did that evolve into more of a like a automated kind of a process?
Right. So redBus actually worked with a couple of visionary bus operators who understood that the future was online and started creating APIs of their inventory and basically digitizing their inventory and making it real time so that everyone who was booking a ticket would use that online booking system. So we worked with a couple of these guys and started integrating a real-time full bus inventory, which means all the 40, 50 seats show up online and the user can go and choose a seat and that gets blocked everywhere. Uh, Pre this particular process, it was about calling the central guy. All the agents would call the central guy and check if a particular seat was available and then assign it to a customer. So just going online really helped operations for redBus, for the user, for the bus operator. So we worked with a couple of these guys who had started digitizing the inventory. We also built some very basic systems so that we could help some of the bus operators go online as well.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
You built like a ERP kind of a like a simple basic ERP for a bus operator where he could manage his inventory and
yeah.
accept bookings
Yes, yes,
from your.
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Hmm. So, coming back to my question, so what are the levers? Like, at that time, whatever competitors Redbus had, I don't think any of them are around today. So, what made Redbus succeed? Like, what do you need to get right if you're an aggregator? Is it the demand side? Is it the supply side? Is it technology?
I think that it's a couple of things. Uh, in the first phase, it's about getting the supply right. Having uh, uh, deep relationships and very clear positioning on the supply side is important. Uh, Supply will care if you sell stuff, right? They care about sales. So you also have to be good on the demand side at the same time to be selling everything that the supply is giving to you, right? You need to have tech capabilities which helps you embed yourself into various systems, whether it's for the user, whether it's for the supply side. And to make all these things happen, you need a great team. So, these are the ways in which you are able to create a network. If any of these legs go missing, which means you've got the user side, but you don't have supply, or you have the supply side, but you're unable to crack the demand side of things, or you're able to crack both, but you're manual and not being able to scale tech, somewhere you will falter. So I think all of these things align pretty well at redbus, and a lot of the guys who came uh, were trying to run some opportunistic sort of fly by night kind of operation which we knew from day one would not scale. So we would always think about scale, saying one day we'll do 500 tickets, okay, one day we'll do 1,000, maybe 10,000, maybe 1 lakh. So we were always dreaming big and saying, how do we make our system stable to handle that kind of load?
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Okay. Okay. So, after about a 5 year stint, you moved on from Redbus, and this was like pre acquisition. Did you like know that it's going to get acquired, and you thought it's time to move on and do something, or like, what made you want to make that switch?
Well, I think Redbus had reached a stage where it wasn't an infant anymore. Uh, my passion really lies in building stuff and seeing it through a stage beyond infancy, where it becomes stable. And so I think redBus had reached that stage. So even when I had decided to move on, it was to pursue other entrepreneurial ambitions. Um, I ensured that it was left in capable hands. We got a good guy in to handle some of the stuff I was managing. And yeah, I thought it was the right time. I didn't know that it would get acquired. I knew we had built tremendous value in the system that we had built, in the brand we had built, the product that it was. We had pretty much crushed every competitor, irrespective of size. And I knew it was a good place to be in, to be moving on.
Hmm, hmm. Okay. What was the scale like when you left? Like, what kind of top line or GMV, or like, what was it like?
I think we were at about 600 crores a year.
Yeah, there's like the top line.
This is the top line, yes. Yeah,
Okay, and 10% of this is what you would have been earning,
that's right.
roughly.
That's
Okay,
right.
got it.
That's right.
Okay, okay. So, did you also have like equity and got to see something when that acquisition happened?
Yes, of course. I was, like I said, one of the foundation team members, which means that, we were basically considered, as good as founders running the company. That's how we felt towards redBus. Uh, we never considered ourselves as folks who've been employed or, any such thing. So that was the emotion with which we were running redBus, right? Still feel very passionate about the brand. Um, if I spot errors anywhere, I do send it to to the folks still running it. Uh, and yes, all of us had equity. We had skin in the game. We had an upside to look forward to. Yes, that was never the incentive. Like I said, it's back in the day, right? redBus was one of the first few exits to happen in the startup ecosystem. So we didn't have anything else to go by. We never dreamt. When we had started it, we used to say, if this becomes 50 crores, imagine what will happen. Imagine if our company is worth 100 crores. What a big deal that would be, right? Today, you have kids raising 10, $15 million in Series C, right? So it's a very different world, When we were running this, we didn't know that the startup system would evolve into being the way it is today. And redBus is sort of to thank for to make that aspiration happen among lakhs of guys who want to do their startup today. They look at redBus as an inspiration that this is possible. That if you're young and out of college and don't have experience in the field, it's possible to run something like that. I've heard a lot of founders say, you guys are the reason why we started. And that includes founders of Swiggy, because they were also from Bitspilani, right? So Funny was also a poster child of the startup ecosystem back then. We had a lot of people, media especially, writing about us, talking about what we're doing, the fact that it's a very young team doing something innovative on the internet. So we really enjoyed the love and the trust that the media placed in us. And overnight, redBus was a poster child for the startup ecosystem.
Hmm, 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 hmm.
Uh,
Right.
so yeah.
Okay. So you had like started the media, and so tell me about that journey.
While I was running redBus and we were trying to evaluate certain offline media, I reached out to a couple of agencies asking them if I could spend 5-10 lakhs and what are the options I have. And most of them said that we can't share any information with you because unless you spend 50 lakhs, it doesn't make sense. For us, we make anywhere between 1 to 2% on the amount that you spend. So the time that I spend in sharing information with you will not justify the money that I make. So unless you want to spend 50 lakhs or so, sorry boss, can't help you. And so I realized how painful it was for me because I wanted to do a radio campaign and I had to reach out to multiple radio stations one by one, make calls to everyone, negotiate with them individually. And I realized that that was quite a pain. I knew that there are lots of SMEs out there that would sort of face similar problems. Uh, I always love democratizing things and making stuff transparent, available at the click of a button. So I thought, what if all these media options that are available? What if all these could be put online? Because clearly the supply side, which is the media owners, would love more leads. The demand side is looking for information, but media agencies don't share it. So it seemed like a broken system to me, right? And I always thought that the way to fix it is just to democratize this information, make it available online, and whether it is media and handling the queries or the supply handling it directly. But all this information would help millions of SMEs who wanted to try out these options. So with that in mind, we started off with non-traditional media, putting together some media options on a website using a blog. We none of us co-founders were actually engineers, so we just found a blogger template and we started acquiring supply of non-traditional media, like advertising a golf course, you want to advertise in the dabbas in Bombay, all of that. So we started aggregating that and putting it up online and realized that supply was more than happy to tie up with you, right? Clients would find it very interesting to go through all these media options and reach out and say, I'm interested in trying this out, etc. So it was very clear that this is a problem being faced by a lot, and a very different model could be built. So, advertising and media agencies has been built around the model of a small number of really large clients, right? We wanted to create the model that could cater to a large number of small clients. And the only way to make that happen is to not have the fixed overheads that agencies have, which is expensive planners, folks who share information, and all of that. And hence, we democratize that on a website, right?
Mm-hmm.
We do
Use
not want,
technology,
yeah, this is
put all that.
correct, right? And don't be in 10 cities. You can cater to every request sitting out of Bangalore, right? So this was the change in the model, and we executed that and realized that it works. So that's the story of media.
But like you had a shortish stint there. Like, is it still running, or did you like decide to wind it up, or what happened?
So Media Ant is a going concern. It's very very healthy. It does 10-15 million dollars a year. Um, it's my co-founders run it. Uh, so Media Ant was actually my first B2B uh, gig, right? And I was there from the beginning till about 2 years, and I had certain realizations while running it. I think that I clearly realized that I don't enjoy B2B as much as I enjoy B2C. Um, Media Ant was again in a stable position. I I was running it as CEO. I knew I have very good, capable co-founders who were interested in running it and taking it forward. I wanted to do something on the B2C front. They understood that that's my area of interest, and it was stable enough to run on their own. Um, and hence, I thought it's a good time to think of gigs in the B2C space. So that's when I thought that I could move out of media ant because it was in capable hands.
Okay. How did you find the co-founders there? Like, how did you all get together?
So Samir, who's the current CEO and co-founder, worked with me for a short while at redBus, and we got along really well. He had also joined in marketing for some time, and my other co-founder Mukesh is a friend of a friend, and we would hang all the time. He was looking to do something, and took him through the idea, told him about the problem statement, etc. And it was something that he could identify with. Uh, in fact, the way there's a very interesting story, and you'll understand the role of serendipity and intuition and all of that. So when I had left redbus and I was thinking deeply about this particular problem, uh, you know I was thinking of the right guy who would understand this problem statement, and someone I could partner with, I had a great comfort in, and could run this with me. So I thought of Samir because we had a great working relationship back at redbus. And I slept the night thinking, okay, I'll reach out to him tomorrow and have a word with him and tell him about this. Uh, I woke up at I think about 7 o'clock or so, and went to my balcony, and I saw that Samir has come home and is parking his bike. And he walks up to the house, and he says, "यार बहुत हो गया, कुछ करते हैं." I was like, if I tell you that I was thinking of an idea and thinking I'll call you today, you'll probably think I'm lying. But I would have called him, in the evening that day, because he would have, been out of office, and he worked at Britannia, which is not very far from where I lived in Domdor. It's a 5-minute ride into all that water. And he said, my wife is earning, I'm good. Let's give it a try. Let's try to do something. And then I told him the idea, and he said, yeah, you're right. Even when I want to spend some money in Britannia and don't want to go through the agency, it's not easy to find this information. It sounds good. Let's make it happen. I said, talk to your wife, figure it out. He said, क्या सोचना है? मतलब मन है कुछ करने का, तुम भी हो, चालू करते हैं. So that's how this came together, and it was his disbelief for me that this entire thing played out like that. And then we said, okay, I'll handle product, I'll handle tech, you can handle servicing. We need someone who handles supply and aggregate media. And I said, I know the right guy for it. Mukesh is amazing with people. I haven't seen someone with the people skills that he has. It's anyone who meets Mukesh will say he's my best friend, right? So I thought he'd be the perfect person to be leading all supply efforts. Obviously, he runs a lot more than just that today, but that's how it started off. And he's very easy to get along with, extremely happy guy, hardworking guy, and I knew he and Samir would get along. So, I got these guys together, and everyone got along like a house on fire. So yeah, that's the that's the media and founding story.
Hmm. So when you moved out, was it like uh, did you like sell off your equity to the other two, or like how did that happen?
No, there's an understanding always between founders about vesting, and we played that out. Yeah, we always had documents on things like that, so we never went by, okay, this is friendship and let's figure it out. No, we at least I was always clear about documenting all these things and having us everyone legally protected.
Okay, got it. Okay, so and this is where you meet Apramya, who's your current co-founder. So tell me about that. Like once you moved on from Mediant.
Yeah, so after Media Ant, I was thinking of various B2C gigs, and I had a list of ideas I wanted to pursue. So I was in the middle of looking for an engineer, deciding which idea to go by, and things like that, right? And some consultant had reached out to me and said that these guys at Taxi for sure really want to meet you. And I kept saying no. And that guy then reached out to me again saying, the founder is a really nice guy. You should definitely talk to him just for my sake, if you don't mind, just uh, take off half an hour and meet up with him. So because the guy was saying that much, I said, okay, I'm happy to meet. And I didn't want to meet purely because I knew that I would not be able to engage with anyone when I'm trying to do something new, right?
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Your redBus experience was what made you attractive to them.
Yeah, I guess everyone sort of looked at redBus as the brand to sort of emulate. Uh, redBus had built quite a persona around it, saying, this is a hot startup. You should, we had quite a few interesting things happening. Like one, it was a very edgy brand. It had quite a personality to it. It had the highest number of transactions, very healthy margins, a decent market size. It was clearly a market leader with nobody else in view. Uh, very, very low cost of acquisition, low to zero cost of acquisition. So that was built on a shoestring budget. So all of these things made it fairly attractive. There was a lot of talk about it. So Apra Maya reached out because of all of that, and he met up with a bunch of other guys from redBus and realized that they weren't really the guys who built it. And he reached out to the consultant saying, these guys could not answer my questions. I'm pretty sure they aren't the guys who built it from the beginning because he was going through the initial journey of taxi for sure. Right? There were 2 years in it. So he said there's someone else who's built it, and I'd like to meet those folks. So the guy reached out to me, and I met up with Aptamya after the consultant told me, and it we uh, we got us getting along would be an understatement because again we were completing each other's sentences. We were pretty much bang on and in sync with each other's thought processes. He's a very he's an introvert, and I get along really really well with introverts. uh, and I understand that energy, that personality very well. He's a true Kannadiga, extremely understated, very humble, very easy to talk to, get along with. So, we were discussing various ideas, and I love travel startups, right? Anything to do with mobility, transportation, travel is something I really love. So, we discussed quite a few ideas, and he said, why don't you just help us out for some time? Uh, and Yeah, I thought that was interesting, and they sort of were the underdogs. I love being on the side of the underdogs, so I thought it would be an interesting assignment. So yeah, I
Okay.
agreed to
So
help them out.
did you stay with them till the acquisition?
I was there till a couple of months before the acquisition, and we really scaled, the number of transactions and things like that. So we had put in place quite a few things. I think there was a great team there. Um, Raghu and Apu were very, very passionate about what they were building. The cab space was not the way you see it today. Most of the bookings would happen over a call. App bookings. So app bookings would be a single digit percentage of the total bookings. And I'm talking 2014, right? Today you can't imagine calling a call center to book your cab, right? So, uh, you know, very different, right? It would need a push. You would need to discount users. Forget about doing search pricing. You can you can't imagine back then, right? You'd have to give users a discount to travel with some other guy in a cab who they don't know. Pay more than an auto fare and things like that, and hence it needed discounting and building supply. it's a very complex business to run. It's very real. It's real time. Like I want a cab now. Uh, the guy has to reach in the next 5-10 minutes and drop me, and he needs another booking and things like that. So I think it's one of the more complicated businesses on the internet, right? With a very very heavy offline angle to it. So I found all of that fairly interesting. And yeah, that was another very fun journey. I was there till a couple of months before the acquisition. But me and Apramaya would basically talk and exchange notes pretty much every day, and the team, right? So I was sort of working there like a consultant, but I would meet them in office every day, and we put in place a lot of systems that could help the company scale. There was a great team there, great leadership. So I basically played the role of putting together some of the playbooks more on the demand side of things.
Hmm. Okay, okay. And so, what made you want to move on and again found your next venture?
Well, the main reason I did not want to meet them was, my fear that if I get involved, I get involved. I can't be half-assed about anything, and that's exactly what happened. When I got involved with helping them, I was thinking taxi for sure all the time, right? I was thinking the cab industry, and that sort of moved me away from another app that I wanted to create back then. And I wanted to get back to that. And again, I thought it was, all the things that I could have shared with them and processes we could have put in place, playbooks we could have created, we had created in the few months that I worked with them. So I thought it was a good time to move on. Apu and me had become very close friends, and we would talk every day and discuss ideas. The team would reach out, and we'd have chats every time they faced some place where they were stuck. They wanted to bounce some things off. If I got an idea of just seeing something, I would share it with them. So they had actually become very close friends, and I thought, it could work remotely as well, and I'm always available. So I thought I could try building my own app.
Hmm. Okay, okay. So what was the concept? Like good box is what you started. What was the concept behind it?
So actually, Goodbox was being run by a very close friend who was with me at redBus. He was one of the guys who had interviewed me and got me in along with Funny. Um, So his name is AB, and he was trying to build something around buses, an entertainment system inside buses and things like that. And they were running multiple experiments there, and they hit upon the experiment of introducing chat inside buses. And they realized that a lot of these bus travelers had multiple requests saying, I want a bike once I get there, I want to stay in a hotel, XYZ, all of that. And they realized that a lot of commerce can happen on chat, right? And people had queries, they weren't necessarily using Google or Just Dial. They found the chat interface fairly easy to send messages and requests for stuff. And it was basically uh, the company was running a hardware which was sort of like a box which was kept inside a bus, and a simple name was good box, right? Because it did good to people. So and while it started off as something for buses, it pivoted to, hey, we can do something on chat as far as commerce is concerned. And we kept pivoting our thoughts and said, well, we can do a lot of daily commerce on this. There's a lot of local businesses that people deal with. A lot of these dealings happen over a call, which is synchronous, right? But you can have an asynchronous behavior over chat. and hence Goodbox and its uh, you know, was born as an experiment saying, okay, let's give it to local stores, let them market it to their users and say they can chat with them and, place orders and stuff like that. And, see their menu and things like that. And so, yeah, that's how Goodbox was born. Uh,
In a way, what WhatsApp is moving towards, like,
that's right. That's right. So a lot of this happens in China on WeChat, and we knew that this will definitely happen in India, where there are millions and millions of mom and pop local shops. Well, be it groceries, restaurants, pharmacies, and name it. So we wanted. It was also a time when apps were pretty hot, right? So every business, if you ask them what do you want, they'll say, "I want an app and a website." Now, on the consumer side, it's pretty clear that a consumer will not download 20 apps for 20 local businesses, right? But if you told them that why don't you download just this one app and you can interact with all the 20 businesses in your area, they would be okay with that, right? So that's sort of the solution that we created, saying this is called a mega app. This is the Goodbox mega app. Users will download the mega app. Uh, Local businesses, on the other hand, will get something like a mini app, where their mini app is hosted inside the mega app. So if you stay in HSR layout, you can just see all the businesses that have mini apps on Goodbox. You can add them to your home screen, and you can now start chatting with them, seeing the menu, make payments online, and all of that. So the idea was to take millions of local businesses online without them having to do anything. So we again, this was a business of democratizing having an app, having a mobile presence, and accepting online payments, having an online menu, an online presence, online chat, being real time, all of that.
hmm, 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 hmm.
Yeah,
So, what happened? Like, is Goodbox still there? Like, I mean,
yeah.
the idea is pretty ambitious.
Yeah, it's a massive project. We always called Goodbox a project and not a startup. We thought that, as far as our vision was concerned, we said everything can move online and work on a mega app, just the way it does on WeChat in China. Right? You have government agencies around WeChat. Pretty much everyone is on WeChat. You're a homegrown business, you can be on WeChat, right? So we said everyone can actually have a mini app inside Goodbox. Even if you're BSNL, right? People could have different use cases, but you could use the chat interface or a menu interface or one app that users can use to interact with all the businesses, entities, organizations in the country, right? So that's why we called it a project because it was quite an undertaking, right? It's basically you churning the ocean. So, it was quite ambitious. Uh, we had a bunch of people who believed in what we were doing. They obviously knew this is a fairly experienced team. I think Goodbox got a lot of traction from the merchant side. It would obviously take a couple of years to build a system like this, right? And we've done various experiments. We had different interfaces for a grocery store, different one for a restaurant, a different one for someone who wants to collect just payments and things like that. Um, so I think a lot of companies back then sprouted up trying to cater to the same trader slash SME market or local business market with different solutions, right? So there was Goodbox trying to give them a mobile presence. Then came Paytm and PhonePe, Paytm saying you can collect payments online. And there was PhonePe saying you can do UPI online, right? There were guys like Misho coming out to small businesses saying, why don't you make money online, right? So a lot of people, Swiggy came out saying you can order food online. There was Grofers trying to say order grocery online. So Goodbox, while it was trying to create an all-encompassing system to take everybody online, there were vertical competitors and there were horizontal guys offering payment solutions and online presence and various other things. So Goodbox was sort of competing with everybody in general, but nobody specifically, right? So, when you're in a position like this where you're undertaking a long-term project, what you're doing is sort of a new concept and things like that, you're bound to hit certain roadblocks. So I think we achieved quite a bit for the size that we were, but I think we faced a lot of competition from the payment guys who were heavily funded. They were, funded to 300x compared to what we were funded. I still think Goodbox is a great solution. It is something that will happen in India one day. I think maybe we were too soon to have launched a product as ambitious as that. I think, if you talk to a lot of traders, they'll say that, or, restaurants, shops saying, we don't like aggregators because they charge us a lot of commission, right? And everyone loves the, I think, basic human nature is to move towards freedom, right? uh, Everyone wants to be out of the clutches of another person, right? So they don't like giving commission beyond a particular point. They don't like to be arm twisted and things like that, right? Which is sort of what was happening with a bunch of aggregators that were running, restaurant delivery or grocery delivery and things like that. So the big theme around Goodbox was go direct to your user, go direct to your customer. Here's an online presence. You are now as good as XYZ. Here are some delivery partners we've tied up with. Feel free to run it as your business without having to create any of this technology. So we were sort of, the tech arm, right? Saying, I'll give you the technology, please feel free to run your business the way you want it. Now, a lot of small businesses don't understand and didn't care about that messaging, right? A lot of them did. And those who did sign up, they understood why they should be on something like this when they're competing with a big basket out there who's got access to great tech, right? So they understood that the users are moving towards online preferences, and they need to have some online face. And to build their own app would cost them anywhere from 10 lakhs to 20 lakhs, and we were giving it $1,000. So they did understand that there's some value in something like that. So, but yeah, I think too early for its time and heavy competitors. Yeah.
Okay. Did it fail due to supply not being there, demand not being there, or technology not being enabling enough?
I think that it's a new concept, right? For customers, uh, it was a new concept that I could interact with my stores online. For supply, it was a new concept that, this is not exactly my app, but it sort of is, right? And so you have to market it to the supply side, saying, this is like your own app. You're just a mini app inside a mega app. And to the customers, the supply had to market it to them, saying, well, come use my own app, but it's called Goodbox, right? So it sort of became a little confusing for both sides sometimes, maybe. But we still had a lot of sticky users and local businesses that were using it heavily, because once you get used to it, you realize saying, well, this is a new channel for me, right? And it's my own channel. There's nobody taking a commission from me. I have nothing to lose. And the more people that get onto the network, the stronger it keeps getting. So, and it was an asset-light model, right? All we had to do was sign up a lot of businesses, give them this tech that was created already, and someone could create a shop within 5 minutes and be up and running with payments the same evening. So we had created a system that was as powerful as that, right? So I think that Goodbox is an amazing product. It's a great system. It will take off in our country someday. Not very far away from today, right? So, like I said, I think it was too early for its times, and lots of times things like these happen, right? Where it seems like a bit of a stretch earlier, but if you project it into time, you'll say, hey, this was so obvious, right? I don't know why this is a great idea, but I don't know why it wasn't done all this while. And you'll realize you're saying, well, it was being done in some form and fashion earlier. Like UPI is an example, right? It's such an obvious thing. I can transfer it straight into someone's account. And you wonder, saying, why didn't we do this earlier, right? It's so obvious. And you'll then think about it and say, hey, well, there was something like PayPal globally where you could transfer money to an email ID without knowing their account details. Right? That's basically what UPI does today, but doing it on the debit card or the banking system. So things like that, right? I think Goodbox was something like that. Saying, well, yes, of course, everyone should have an online presence and be able to cater to their users directly without having to pay commission. It's too obvious an idea. So, I think you need an entire ecosystem for something like this to work, which means you need great delivery partners. You need a supply side that's really ready, desperate, and saying, "Just give this to me, and it'll solve my problem." You need users who have app fatigue, saying, "Boss, I'm done with apps. I don't want to download 10 different apps." Right? So when all these things come together, right, it'll just balloon itself as the most obvious solution. Like Paytm wasn't a very obvious solution till demonetization happened. Now that doesn't mean that Paytm was a failure till then. It's just that the time was ripe for this to happen. Big Basket has been marketing itself for almost a decade now, right? There are hoardings of Big Basket for so many years. I've been seeing it, right? It really went into a different zone as soon as COVID hit, saying, boss, you can't step out of your house to buy groceries. What are you going to do now? You have to order online. Now, it's not that the solution was wrong. It wasn't that, Big Basket was a failure before this happened. But, opportunity met preparation and solution at, at a time, and, that's your inflection point. So I think for us, timing was off.
But do you think WhatsApp took a better approach of first building users and now they are onboarding businesses and giving features to businesses to do stuff? And because the users are there, so businesses are getting onboarded automatically. Like they don't have to sell the idea of doing business on WhatsApp because the users are anyway there.
So I think that WhatsApp and Goodbox have the same framework, which is make it easy for businesses to go direct to the users, right? It's always desirable to be running a network on a business that has already been built. What's an example of that? You have P2P chat happening on WeChat. Now it's very easy to tell all the businesses saying, hey, I have 800 million users. I'm going to launch the ability for you to run a shop and you can accept payments XYZ from these 800 million users, right? So that's a slam dunk. The more difficult thing to do is to build both sides together, right? Which is sort of what a network is, which is sort of what Uber did, Ola did, redBus, name it. And that's really where the value lies, right? So that's what we were trying to do. Now, WhatsApp is also worried about messing up what they what they have, which is a great P2P messaging service. They don't want that polluted with marketing messages and various things like that. Which is why it's not like WhatsApp doesn't have the tech capability to pull this off, but they have to walk a very delicate rope of still being the messaging service of choice and not pissing people off when they launch off business, right? And we knew they would always have these difficult decisions to make, and we had, a window of opportunity to make good box happen, right? With features back then that WhatsApp was not even thinking of. We had a menu inside your chat, we had payment systems inside chat. So WhatsApp business came a lot later. But you look at the good box screens back then, right? We had a very sophisticated product that had been built out. So yes, I think there'll be a lot of things which will be very difficult to crack inside the WhatsApp kind of system, which Goodbox had the flexibility of building. So yeah, we'll have to see how this thing evolves.
Okay. So from Goodbox to being a co-founder again with Apramya, how did that happen?
Well, Apramya and me have always been discussing ideas. Goodbox came to a particular point where it became important for some of us to diverge because Goodbox had to pivot from being an app that gives a mobile presence to sort of trying out deliveries and working deeper in one particular vertical. We were running out of resources and things like that. So it was very important for a few of us to jump ship so that the ship stays afloat, right? And Apramya was running multiple experiments on the next billion user base, right? And we always wanted to work together from Taxi for Short Days. So we would keep discussing ideas. And when I was leaving Goodbox, we met a couple of times and said, let's do this together. And he told me, various experiments that are running. And Vokal was just about born as a thought from one of the experiments that he was running. And again, I started by consulting and working together with him, going to office every day and figuring out what's happening and making some of these things happen and build confidence on what we're trying to solve here. Is it a real problem? What's the right solution? Things like that. And there's been heavy comfort around that. So around working with him and things like that. So we just decided to make this happen. And quite obviously, it's a very large opportunity. Uh, we both have seen the journey of catering to the 100 million or maybe the 50 million urban users, right? Uh, those seeking conveniences from the internet. Right, he built Taxi for sure. I've done redBus, and we wanted to create products that could be used by the hundreds of millions of users, right? And to be able to do that, you have to break the language barrier in India because just 10% of the country understands and speaks English. And hence, we were thinking of multilingual solutions that could work for a larger population. So yeah, that's how Vocal was born, and uh, various thoughts also led us to Coup. So
So vocal is essentially like a Quora in local language, right?
it's like
Like
a
a
Quora, but instead of text, it's an audio and video. It makes it easy for experts to answer questions very quickly. It's not as involved as a video. So a lot of people find it very easy to give audio answers, hit the record button, record your answer, and send it out. It was a new format. Nobody had done this in the world earlier. Uh, there was also a lot of data from Google saying that 40% of the searches in India are happening over voice, which also meant that it might have been even higher as far as vernacular audiences are concerned, which basically meant that there was comfort around asking questions in voice, and the natural uh, mode of answering that question may have been a voice answer as well.
hmm, hmm. Wouldn't that like give limitations on how searchable is the content? I mean, often when I'm researching stuff, Quora will generally come up on page one if I'm looking for, uh, say, uh, I'm looking for a good service to learn coding, for example, and typically Quora will have a question where someone asks, "What's the best way to learn coding?" And uh, so, wouldn't that kind of be something you lose out on when it is all voice?
So there are technologies that are fairly sophisticated that do a speech to text, and
In all regional languages also.
that's right. So Google has a service. There are a bunch of other startups and some other large tech companies that provide these as an API, and it has error rates. but it's still good to go with. So, when you do speech to text, all that content becomes indexable, searchable, discoverable.
Hmm. Okay. So on Vocal, the platform, so when you are uh, browsing through Q&As, you will see both the text and the
That's right.
play button to listen to the audio.
That's right.
Okay. 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 And how has the traction been for Vocal?
Vocal has been very interesting. I think it's been quite a journey. Uh, it's a new format, right? Q&A has existed since the start of the internet, right? I can think of every large company that sort of tried their Q&A uh, uh, service, whether it was Yahoo, Google, Microsoft, you name it, right? Um, so Q&A is not a new category in the world. It doesn't belong to Quora necessarily, right? Quora was pretty late into Q&A. Nobody had tried voice answers to questions, and it works for a country like ours because of the language diversity. A lot of the internet users are new. They're not necessarily used to the keyboard the way you and I are, where we migrated from a desktop to a laptop to a mobile, and hence you are used to a keyboard. Anyone who did not use a desktop or laptop is not used to a keyboard. Think about it. It's even difficult to identify with as a problem. If I give you a mobile, that's basically being used to make calls. Now you're telling me to use a keyboard. What is that? I only use this for voice, right? Most of the Indian users went onto the internet as a mobile first user, right? First time they got 3G, 2G, 4G, all of that, they started using the mobile. Now, keyboard is a new concept, right? And hence they started using voice functionality. And hence, having voice answers to voice questions became something we were identified with, right? Vocal grew from a very small base, from, three answers, five answers, 10 answers a day, to thousands of answers, and double digit thousands of answers that we get every day. It's gone to millions of questions a month. uh, Back in the day, from having 10, 20, 30 questions being asked on the platform. So
So
yeah.
some way to like compare. So for example, does it have as much traffic as say a Hindi newspaper website, like say a Dainik Bhaskar? Does Vocal have like a comparable amount of traffic as that, or like something
Yeah.
so that
Yeah. No, I
the I.
understand. So
Mm.
I think newspapers are a category which it's an everyday thing, right? Whereas search and Q&A and stuff like that is a very need-based category, right? I'll come and ask a question when I have it, when I want it, when I want an answer, right? So Vocal is crossing 20 million users a month, right? Dainik Bhaskar's readership, from whatever public sources I understand, is close to about 20 or 22 million or 23 million. So, yes, yeah. So,
Okay, yeah, that gives a good picture of
yeah. So, I think Vocal is the kind of business that can easily cater to 500 million users a month. That's the kind of usage it could have in the next few years. Because, what's the largest internet company that you know? Google. What does Google do? It answers questions. It answers search queries, right? There is no content, or there's very sparse content on the internet in Indian languages, right? Most of these were created because, if you look at the history of the internet, most of the content has been created by creators when they use things like Blogger. Uh, you had other blogging services. You had Twitter, you had YouTube. So these were basically creators trying to express themselves and create websites and stuff like that online, right? And they are the guys who were the content creators, and millions of users came to consume that content, right? So tools have to be given to creators so that they can create content for millions and billions of internet users to consume. That did not happen in India in Indian languages. It did not happen in Indian languages because the Indian language user was not using the internet. It was the English language user of India that was using the internet. Guys like you and me. The Indian language user came onto the internet when Jio made it extremely affordable to have a data connection. When smartphones became very, very cheap, right? They became very affordable. When Flipkart and Amazon were selling smartphones and delivering it to your house. So an entire ecosystem came together and took the Indian language user onto the internet for the first time, right? Now, the Indian language creator did not have the tools or reason to create in Indian languages before this, right? The tools that they need is okay, make it easy for me to, create content in these languages. Give me a nice keyboard. Give me the ability to record my voice, record a video, etc. Okay, what are people looking for? I don't know what they're looking for. Can you tell me what they're looking for? Can you tell me the questions that they're asking? Right. So, vocal is an attempt to bridge this gap, saying this is what people are asking. These are the various categories. These are the kind of people they want to hear from. You seem to be that guy. I'll make it very easy for you to contribute this content onto the internet. Here, click on this, record your voice. Voila, you're now searchable on the internet. Right? So that's a very nice solution to give to the creator. And the creator could be guys like you and me, right? Like I know Hindi, but I've never created in Hindi. Why? Because I had no incentive to. Now that Vocal is there and says, well, I get 20 million, 30 million people every month coming to my platform, why don't you say something? I have every reason to do that because I might get more visibility doing that than contributing on an English platform where I'm lost among the millions of other creators. So that's the thought behind Cool and Vocal both. That make it easy for the creators to start contributing in Indian languages because the Indian language users now on the internet, and this is going to double. We're going to be double the size of the United States population as far as our internet usage is concerned. Right? That's a massive market out there.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Okay. So, Vocal, of course, is like a Q&A platform. What is Koo? Like, what do you compare it to in terms of the more well-known apps? Like, what is it like?
It's like Twitter. It's a microblog. Right? Twitter is the world's microblogging platform. While we were running, so I'll tell you
And this is
how.
also like voice first? Koo?
No, it is, the creator can choose how they want to create. So, Ku was born out of our experiences at Vocal. So, we had experts that were basically answering questions, right? So, the reason to create or the trigger to create is reading someone else's questions. And we had a few experts who came back and said, well, I don't want to answer a question every time. I have certain thoughts, and I'd like to share that as a free flow thought with my followers. Right? How do I do that? And uh, uh, we asked them why they're not using something like Twitter. Right? He said, well, just the way vocal helps me create in Indian languages, it's a little difficult to do that on Twitter because I need to write my thoughts in a notepad in Hindi. Then I need to copy it, paste it, and then push that out. Right? The It's not easy to get discovered there. So they had certain points, right? And we said, well, we should see what's happening on this particular microblog as far as Indian languages is concerned. And we did some research and we realized that the content being created in Indian languages on Twitter was very sparse. right? And the reason was, multiple reasons. Uh, Both Apramya and me have a lot of respect for what Twitter has done as far as democratization of voice, thoughts, information, views, opinions, all of that is concerned, right? It's a great product, right? It delivers a great service to the world, right? It makes information easily accessible, real time. It's a true sense of democratization of voice, right? So we wanted to do that for India. Now, a lot of these things which need to be translated to the Indian context need a tweaking. Every global product doesn't work in a country like ours, which has the kind of language diversity we have. Right? We have hundreds of languages. Each of them have different dialects. Each of them have different kind of text that is being used. Right? Uh, there's a certain preference for the kind of Marwari that you speak. So we wanted to create a product that understands these nuances and takes care of it and gives people a very secure environment in which they can create and consume this content in their mother tongue. Like, I'll give you an example. Imagine walking into a room where you're a Hindi speaker and everyone is speaking in English. You'll feel very insecure there. You'll have an inferiority complex, saying if I say something, will they look at me in a particular way? Will they think of me in a particular way? That's sort of the feeling that you get when you're creating on Twitter in an Indian language, saying यार सब लोग इंग्लिश में बात कर रहे हैं मुझे हिंदी में कुछ कहना है. Will they think I'm stupid? Am I going to be judged? If I put the same person into a room where everyone's speaking in Hindi, the guy suddenly comes to life, right? Saying, "ये मेरे जैसे लोग हैं." That's what I mean by a secure environment. So in Koo, when you enter the app, there's a clear preference in terms of language. You can select that language. You get into the app, and everything is in that language. You see people who've been creating in that language. You will see a feed in that language. Every instruction is in that language. You will, you have a people feed. You can see each person who's been creating, go to their profile, read what they've written. So it's a fairly, a deep experience delivered in Indian languages, but on microblogging as a service.
Okay. And how tightly integrated are Vocal and Koo? Like, could you sign into Koo with your Vocal account and your Vocal followers become your Koo followers or stuff like
No,
that?
these are actually different use cases and different platforms, and we, we kept them separate.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, have you like one thing is of course that this is local language, but have you like done other stuff to not be a Twitter, like stuff which Twitter might have as an approach which you consciously decided not to do?
Uh, I think in terms of product, we have a lot of things that are different compared to what Twitter does. Simple one being a people feed. Right? If you look at, it's very easy to find uh, people who are contributing, let's say in Telugu on Go. Right? You'll see a list of people. If you go to Twitter, it's very search based. So if I land you in Hindi and I say, okay, find people who are speaking in Hindi on Twitter, it's very tough. There's no list out there, right? You have to search. Who will you search for? You'll search for Narendra Modi. You'll search for Shah Rukh Khan. You'll search for Amir Khan. You'll search for the names you are aware of, right? If you ask me to go to Twitter, I'm not going to search for Akshay Dutt there because I don't know who that guy is. But if you showed me all the creators as a list, there's a good chance that Akshay Dutt, who's supposed to be a great creator, or a poet, or an author, or whatever, is getting discovered here. So, so that's what's happening on Who, and that is what makes it very interesting, right? And lots of mini features which are very different from what Twitter has. We also follow certain philosophies that are a little more nuanced than what they have. Like I said, we have a lot of respect for what they've done. I think it's a great global product, but I think when you want to cater to users, who have multilingual preferences, it needs many tweaks.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Okay. Okay. So we are almost at the end of our time. I have one area more which I want to explore with you is your journey as an angel investor. And do you have like an investment thesis around the investments you make, or uh, like how do you rate yourself as an investor? Do you think you are a savvy investor, or that's one area I want to explore with you before we wrap up.
Sure. So I understand internet businesses. I sort of now understand entrepreneurship, and I think it has hundreds of variables, right? But I think it all boils down to three things. Uh, it boils down to a market. It boils down to the solution, and then it boils down to the solver, right? And the solver is the entrepreneur here. So product, market, and entrepreneur, right? If I had to place my bets on one thing, it is always the entrepreneur, because markets can change, solutions can change. The entrepreneur is the guy who can make both of these change, right? So if you have to bet money on someone, I bet money on the person, right? Because if he's a reasonable guy, he's happy to take advice, he's sharp, he's got a good background, he's got his heart in the right place, he's doing it for the right reasons and all of that. You can always identify a newer market, a different market. You can always solution out a problem statement, right? So this is my very simplified thesis as far as angel investing is concerned. I care about the person, why they are doing it, how they thought of the idea, why they've chosen a particular market, why they have chosen a particular solution. And if all these three things align, you've got a good investment there.
Hmm. And I think typically angel investment is this only. You are betting more on a founder than on
Yeah,
the problem, the solution.
that's right. And we've run multiple ventures, right, to understand where a startup could fail, right? Because I've had successes and failures at the same time. I've learned a lot of things. I know what I would not do again that I did earlier. So all of that makes for good advice. All of that makes for better judgment in identifying mistakes folks are making, and identifying people who are doing it for the wrong reasons and stuff like that. So I think, you asked me, do you think you're a good angel investor? I would say that I have better judgment today than I had 10 years back. And that judgment may not be as good as the judgment maybe a venture capitalist who's just about starting off has. They're going about understanding entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship differently from the way I understand it, because I'm executing every day. And things break not always on strategy, they break in execution, because there's just so many Chinese whispers between the guy who thought about it and the guy who's doing it, and that basically defines your success. You thought of doing an email campaign, and that's a big strategy for your company. Well, guess what? Someone forgot to write the right subject line. And instead of having a 60% open date, they have a 0.6% open date. Now that defines success. So sending out emails wasn't the wrong strategy, but you executed it badly, right? So I know where things can fail. I understand that. I can advise entrepreneurs on some of these basic things, right from hiring to building operations to having the right solution to getting the right investor, other angels they should involve, how do you build your core team? So a whole lot of topics, right? And I actually enjoy doing it. Uh, I I love working with people who are passionate. I love creating new stuff. I love brainstorming on new ideas, creating new solutions in the world. So that's really my it gets me going. So yeah,
Hmm.
To learn more about and start using Koo today, log on to www.kooapp.com. That's KOOAPP.com. And if you want to learn about Vokal, log on to www.vokal.in. That's VOKAL.in.
You like the Founder Thesis podcast? Then do check out our other shows on subjects like marketing, technology, career advice, books, and drama. Visit thepodium.in, that is THEPODIUM.in, for a complete list of all our shows.